Well, all right, here we are live on Amazon. If you are watching somewhere else, come on over to amazon.com/live and let's get into this interview with Ronald K. Lovern and D. Scott here in Oregon. And Ronald, you are not in Oregon. Where are you
I'm
at?
not in Oregon. I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. All right. Well, we were watching the Dallas football team beat up.
Oh yeah, that was awesome, right?
That
Not to
was a
offset anybody from Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, but it was awesome.
well, that was a good win, but we're not talking about football. And America's pastime is still baseball. Baseball is a great sport. We're not here to talk about baseball, but baseball makes a great metaphor for a lot of things.
True.
And when we were in high school, we talked about getting to first base. But first base is
A little bit different first base.
is a little bit different. You got a ton of experience, and the reason why we want people to watch this interview here is because you've got some great practical advice using baseball as a metaphor, and you've got some background there. We're going to talk about that in life and in business. You've got a great background in business. And so we want to get into that a little bit, let people know what's going on. But I just want to tell people right now, we have got your book in the carousel. They can go right down below and then click on the book, Holding Down First Base, Following Your Own Path to Success. And that's what we're talking about here is your path to success. So, Ron, let's just get a little background about you're in Dallas. You've got some baseball and business background. Tell us who you are and what's going on in your world.
Sure, that's a loaded question, right? So I am been in business in telecommunications and telecom for past almost 30 years, but I actually started my career as in journalism major, right? And for kind of one piece or one direction or one degree, as we get move through life, things change. And next thing you know, 30 years later, I'm running a telecommunications company with my business partner and, looking back on life experiences, right? So I've worked with lots of billion-dollar companies. AT&T was one of them that I retired from, actually. But Triton is the first small business that I've actually really worked with, right? And I've learned a lot in the time that I've been here as a business owner and business leader. But I've also been able to put a lot of principles that I know and understand throughout my career in basically in practice to what we do today. And for a small business, that makes a big difference. And I always tell people that, especially those investors, individuals that are looking to maybe start their own business or do other things that have been in great, like me, AT&T, billion-dollar companies, and now you want to go and start your own. A lot of times you think that it's actually more difficult to go into, a billion-dollar business or a big enterprise business and do stuff, but it's actually to me a lot harder for a small business, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
a small business, everybody it's either family owned or you've been doing certain things a certain way for a long period of time. And it's very difficult when you're in the weeds, doing the business to really understand and step back and look to see how the business is running. And one of my biggest parts, from AT&T to where I'm at today, has been about mentoring and development.
Mm-hmm.
So even from the first days of my journalism, when I was writing, stories and reports, to advertising, to where it was kind of my leeway into sales and everything else, that I always learned that it's about the individuals that you work with. It's not so
Mm-hmm.
much as far as the business itself, but the business is made up of you know individuals, and those individuals inside the business make for your business. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but a lot of people kind of look at a business and they kind of say, okay, you know, Robert House is the CEO of Triton Networks. He is the business for Triton, right? But we've got accounting and sales and procurement and billing and all these other great parts of the company, that every individual has a worth and adds to the value of it. And they wouldn't be here without Robert, but Robert wouldn't be here without them, correct? So you got to
Mhm.
learn to develop those individuals. You got to learn to mentor them, to let them take over for you, or let them take more of the business and more of the responsibility.
Yeah.
What I've tried to do in this book is just a starting ground for
Mhm.
that. It is part of a larger series, which is Diamonds in the Rough, part of the series, and it's also part of our long-term program, so our development program to reach out, back out into the community and give back to individuals and mentor high school, college students, and secondary as well.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Always, every time I meet a teacher, I say, thank you for protecting our future. We definitely need to invest in those students, college, high school, whatever grade you have the opportunity. So I appreciate that you're doing that. I'm going to remind people that we have got your book, Holding Down First, Following Your Own Path to Success, right here in the carousel. And if you click on it, it's going to open a new tab. And I encourage you to add to cart, but also click on Ronald's name there and follow him as an author, because when additional books come out in this series, you'll get notified. It's just a free thing that you can do right here on Amazon. So I encourage people to do that. So, Ronald, this is one of the things I hear you say is talking about mentorship, and whether you are a student working in a global company like AT&T, or a small business, or maybe you're a solo entrepreneur, we need that outside influence. We need mentors and coaches. And it's obvious when we're young and you're in sports, you have a coach, someone who helps guide you and tell you what you're doing, what to do better. But it seems like we maybe go to college, trade school, we have a work experience, and then we think we can just do it on our own. But I don't think that's necessarily the truth.
That's a good example there, right? Because as far as that goes, um, that's one of the things I learned, right? I didn't appreciate maybe my coach in high school as much, right? Or and that kind of goes through this, right? The learning expectations, setting expectations, earning trust, developing trust, things like that. Um, Always come back around one way or the other, just like you said, right? So that's one thing that I kind of saw as I was developing my own career, that I really didn't have anybody to look toward for
Mhm.
development. I had managers and I had you know, directors and others that had interest in what I was doing, so that I
Right.
would go to the next level. But it was always something I always thought my talent was going to carry me as far as I needed to go, right? And that's not always the case. One of the things I like to point out greatly is, you know, wherever you're at, there's a lot of talented people in this world, whether it's in
Mhm.
business, whether it's in bookstores, or whether it's at a florist, whatever your business is. There's a lot of other people out there that are trying to do the same thing, and they're talented, right? Derek Jeter, for every Derek Jeter that is out there, there's another dozen people out there, waiting behind him to take his spot, right? The same thing with Tom Brady. He was ready to take over for Drew Brees, but it could have been anybody else.
Sure.
When he was at Michigan, he had 4 or 5 people in line to take over that spot. Uh, so there's always talented people there. It's how you position yourself, the expectations that you set, and how you put yourself in a position, to take advantage of that opportunity when it's ready.
Mhm.
That's one of the things I always say. Like, if you want to be an engineer, you just can't say, "Hey, I'm going to be an engineer today." But if you didn't go to school and get your engineering, degree, doesn't mean you can't do that. It just means now you've got to set a plan in place, over the next few years to, finish your degree, go into the engineering, and then doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a job, right? But it does mean that you set yourself an opportunity now to put yourself in that position for that job.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the more things that you do to continue and educate, put yourself in that position, helps you advance not only in business but in life across the board.
Well, that's what we're here to give some tips and some instruction on how to live that best life, whether it's in business again or big business, small business, your personal life. But let's talk about this baseball metaphor that you have, because the book "Holding Down First." So let's go into the your background and how you arrived at this. And again, this is not a baseball book, so we don't want people thinking, get this for my little league son. Although maybe the principles would be good, but you're not teaching them to be a better batter.
Right. And it could, right? Because you got to set steps and goals, and there's things in place, right, in order to become that. The concept of holding down first starts basically going back and looking from my management career to back to high school.
Hmm.
And during high school, I, by circumstances, and I won't go through that because that's actually in the book, but I ended up getting hurt in coaching, first base in my senior season. So not somewhere where a star looks to in order to participate and compete, right?
Hmm.
But I found myself at first base coaching, and instead of just being someone that collected the other players' hats and and gloves and everything else,
Right.
I actually started trying to encourage people to get on base and advance and kind of watching the field and protecting and kind of looking at the pitcher and what they're doing and helping our teammates, advance to the next level. So we ended up moving, quickly from our third place spot where we were at after, because when I went down, I was out for about 3 weeks and then I could actually start walking around. And
So
during
read
that,
the book. Make sure everyone reads the book to find out what happened to get to that point.
um, so in that, as far as holding down first, it, the climax part of it is pretty interesting as well because my coach at the time and I guess didn't get along all the time, but um, he was disappointed in what I was doing because I was giving signs and signals to the players that weren't what he was giving. So
Uh,
instead of like a hit and run, or instead of looking for a walk, we would do a hit and run. Or if it was 3 balls, you're supposed to take the fourth one. We were swinging away, right? So we ended up getting in first place. But my expectations were that as soon as I was ready to play, I
mhm.
wanted to play. But it was like I wanted, kind of set everything in tone to where I didn't set the expectations for the rest of the team and for my coach that I had in my mind.
Mhm.
I think we do that a lot, right? And especially as a teen or a youth, it's like, okay, I think I'm going to graduate college. I'm going to get this degree. I'm going to go work here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And that's all fine and great. But sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And when it
Yeah.
does, you hit this wall of adversity. And what do you do when you go from that point, right? So we talk about that as far as that adversity and overcoming that. Um, and I didn't realize all of this until my career was in mid management, when I kind of saw the same thing, where I saw a lot of individuals and development managers that were leadership development coming out to see me. And, I would mentor them and then they would go all, become senior vice presidents of the company and, et cetera, right? And I'm thinking, okay, I'm back into this holding down first again position.
Mhm.
So with that, it's kind of like, how do you avoid that? How do you keep from maintaining that holding down first? And positions in life and where we are at level wise, it is dependent on what our goals are. Not everybody can be the CEO, but if you want to have a nice living and you want to, be a mid-level manager, or you want to own your own business and you want to have, a certain amount of time to spend with your family, et cetera, you got to set goals in place and you got to set boundaries, expectations, and these
Mhm.
things across the board so that you can attain your goals. And in doing so, I show as far as earning trust and setting your expectations and always be looking to move forward. But one of the biggest learning aspects I think we have is we always think we need that one person to mentor us or that one
Mhm.
individual that we're looking for to help us along the way, and that's not the case. And it's kind of you know, I guess a little far fetched out there and idealistic if you think
Right.
one person can like develop you and mentor you your whole life. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen. You always have people come and go, whether it's coaches, teachers, professors, your first manager, and not all of them are great at what they do,
Hmm.
or as far as being leaders. They may be great at what they do as far as being a subject matter expert person, right?
Hmm.
But what they do well, you can always follow and mimic and take that and make it your own. And what they do bad, you can observe. And so that's the biggest part as far as being able to advance is observing others.
Hmm.
And that's one thing I always encourage young mentees that I have as far as watching and observing others. You can always pick the best from the best, but it's always even more valuable to pick what people are doing wrong. That if they changed it, and
Hmm.
it's just a small degree. I mean, the one thing I say is also, you know, 1 degree on the golf course, if you're using your driver, can be, you know, a
Sure.
fair way away, right? Or 1 degree if you're using your putter or your chip, pitching,
Hmm.
could just be a few yards away.
Yeah.
So if you're setting shorter goals and setting shorter action items, you're more likely to attain those in the long term, right?
Yeah.
And then, if you have to pivot or make adjustments along the way, then you can do that. Like I
That
said,
pivot.
I
The,
started out as a journalism major, right? Um,
yeah.
and got into technology, and from technology, still communications, right? Now I'm, helping and running a pretty successful network company for network services and
I think
technology.
you're being modest on that success there, by the way.
We
So,
have won a few awards and recognition, but it's one of those gamuts, right? As far as that percentage, it didn't go from here to here overnight. It went one incremental percent or
mhm.
degree year over year over year. We changed to where I'm at today, and that's one thing for a lot of young adults to see is that you know you're in control of where you want to go. You just have to be able to focus on what that looks like. And if you have
Mhm.
a goal and it doesn't work out, you don't become the next Derek Jeter, right? It could still open you up for another opportunity along the way. Put
This
you in
is
a position for
this is part of the deal, and I like where you've gone with this. You mentioned pivoting. We know that there's this great phrase that uh, fortune favors the prepared. One of the things that I found is that uh, in many cases we set these plans, or maybe we set these plans that we want to do. But when you go and talk to people and you ask them, well, how did you get to be running this telecom company, or how did you end up writing this book? And in many cases, people will start their story or their response with, well, it's a really interesting story, which means it wasn't exactly the way they planned it. So you didn't plan to be coaching first base. You planned to be getting coached from the first base coach. And yet you were able to say, look, I can make this, right? And you went from third to first in the rankings for the in the standings, which is phenomenal. And so, not letting that weigh you down, but finding a different alternative. And this is, and I'm going to put this back up so that people know we're talking to the author, Ronald K. Lovern, right here with his book, uh, brand new release, just last month, Holding Down First, following your own path to success. And your own path may be exactly A to B to C to D, but probably in more cases, something got in the way and you had to go around, but you still have that long term vision of where you want to go. And the path is probably, I mean, it's important, but it's not as significant as the journey.
right. And one of the things that, and it's also in the book, is one of my favorite uh, quotes is from Booker T. Washington. And it
Hmm.
basically talks about, I've learned that success is to be measured not so much by the position that we've reached in life as by the obstacles which we've overcome while trying to
Yes.
succeed,
Hmm.
right?
That's a
So with
beautiful
that,
quote.
I mean, I have to give my sister kudos because she gave me that probably 25 years ago. And it just opened my eyes because she's like, I never thought even anywhere along the way that I'd ever had any kind of success, right? And she's like, stop beating yourself up. You've overcome a lot to get to where you're at today, right?
Yeah.
And we do that. Everybody I know that I've talked to, not everybody, but most people I know that I talk to, are in the same situation where those that want to be successful are never satisfied, right? But it's really
Hmm.
difficult for you to look back and say what you have done. And another thing that Booker T. Washington says is that there's two ways to exert your power. I'm paraphrasing this, and that's basically pushing or pulling.
Hmm.
Right? So you push the information out to people. You kind of support a lot of our teachers and coaches. This is what you do. The other part is pulling people back up, right? So
Hmm.
you reach back out to your communities. You reach back out to others, and you help them pull up along the way. It's always easy, and this isn't anywhere in the book, but since we're on baseball, that coaches of select teams have, there's some coaches that go out and they just get the best players. They
Hmm.
don't really coach them, they just get the best players. In business, we do the same thing sometimes, right? We just go and
Hmm.
try to get the best players. We let them, on the field and let them do their thing. Others, go and they develop their players and develop their individuals in their company. And those in that, you know, in that case, either business or sports or whatever we're talking about, those that you help develop along the way and
Hmm.
give them the leadership ability are one, they're more loyal to you, they're stronger for your company, and they represent your company a little bit better as well, instead of the higher guns that you go out and get. Because my son was in select baseball, and I know that every year we were like playing with a different group of kids because they would just go to the next team. Oh, they're winning, so I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go to this team.
Hmm.
Same thing with business and sales. So when you hire that, you want to have some people that come in and have a good experience, have some experience they can bring to the table, but you should be trying to develop your own leaders and your own employees as well.
I was just reminded of the movie Miracle about the 1980 U.S. hockey team
Yeah.
that won gold, and Kurt Russell, who plays Herb Brooks, the coach. There's this great line in the movie where he's looking for the players for that team, and they're trying to tell him, you got to get the best players, right? So all of the top players of all these college teams, and he says, I don't want the best players, I want the right players. And then he coached them, and one of the leaders that emerged was Micah Ruzioni, and he was given that opportunity to become the leader, but he wasn't selected to be the leader. And so he really, I can see this in
Big
your book.
difference too, right? It's a big
Yeah.
difference, right?
Mhm. This is really good. I'm just going to remind people the book is in the carousel. You can click. Uh, it's the holiday season, and you can be the hero. One of the great things about Amazon is you can send it to people. So if you have a friend that would like to make 2024 their best year, they want to focus on themselves, and a great book to help them out right here is Holding Down First: Following Your Own Path to Success. You can put their name and address and have it shipped right to them.
Yeah.
So you can get your shopping done right here, get the whole thing done. Uh, Plenty of time to enjoy Christmas and all the rest of the holidays. So, Ron, uh, what was it? So you had these great experiences. You had baseball experience. You had you had obstacles that you had to overcome, and then what caused you to actually write the book? Because a lot of people want to write books, and they have experience and it's helpful.
But,
Why did you decide to do this one?
well, I don't know if I decided to do it or if I was asked too many times I couldn't refuse to do it, right? Um, I was a journalism major. I wrote, for 10 years for local papers in Dallas area, mostly, amateur sports and other things, but also, for some of the weekly papers. I also began writing technical information on LinkedIn and some other areas, uh, and most of them were about different ways about leadership and how to develop men, and some of it was technical, but more about leadership than anything.
Hmm.
And a few years passed, and my high school baseball coach, his daughter and son, put on a uh, annual golf tournament in his memory. So
Mm.
we did the coach, the Bulldog Classic every year, and Liz, Lala started to ask me, so when are you going to put all these thoughts together and put them down on paper? I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't know. Why? I mean, why would you? I don't know. I just never thought about it. And so she bugged me for about 5 years. Every year I see her. And then I finally said, all right, let's meet for lunch. Let's talk about it. And one of the first things I did is I wrote down an outline of what I was going to talk about. And, I
Hmm.
did have the title of Holding Down First in mind. And I said, I just let you know that my senior year of high school, your dad and I, we really didn't get along at the end there. And she started laughing. She goes, Ronnie, he didn't get along with a lot of people, but he still loved every one of you guys. You know,
That's
so
leadership.
then you kind of go back. It's like, well, a lot of the things that he was trying to do was trying to push me and develop. And most of the time, I probably at that time when I was 18 didn't really think I needed anything, right?
Mm. We're
I
all
didn't
invincible at
really get
18.
that far, right? So, she convinced me to go ahead and start writing. So I started putting things down on paper, and we got through the first chapters, and we started going back and looking. And she was having other discussions with people, and one of the big issues that we see in across the board in all communities is the lack of mentoring for
Hmm.
young adults, and particularly young males, um, especially in some of the inner city, but even in some of the suburban areas.
Hmm.
So we started going back and we redid a few things. I started redoing a few things. I put icons in place to where I want you to stop and think about something, sort of like a
Hmm.
baseball cap, right? A prep step. So somebody's getting up to ready to practice for homework, and then somebody as far as setting opportunities. So those icons are in place throughout to kind of help you stop and think and learn. Um, and again, even if you've been in business for 20 years, there's a lot of things you may not have thought about, right? There's a
Hmm.
lot of things you may not be doing for prep steps and opportunities and looking for those opportunities, right? So it helps across the board. And uh, the development of this, when I started talking to some other middle school teachers and also some of the programs, people that are in charge of some of these programs for high school, uh, they loved it. They thought it was great. They thought it was a good development step.
Hmm.
And so it kind of took away from originally being for, you know, just strictly business to now
Hmm.
being more of a development tool for a mentoring tool for middle school, high school, and college.
Hmm.
Not to say that you can't, because my 30-year-old son-in-law is reading it now, and he's like, I never knew any of that stuff, right? It's like,
Right.
he went to a few years of college. He's doing business. He's in mortgage and doing some other things, and he wants to advance. But a lot of us don't get those opportunities throughout
Yeah.
our life that others have.
Ronald, that's one of the things that's really interesting, and and this has just come to light for me in recent years too, because in many cases, one of those great influences on our lives may have been a parent, aunt or uncle, relative, but in many times it's a coach or that instructor, someone that, sure, they taught you baseball, but really you learn more about life than about the game. It was kind of, they use that, and in many cases, I thought that we all had this, but not everyone had that.
True.
And
Right.
this is one of the great things I see about your book, Holding Down First, Following Your Own Path to Success. Maybe this is one of those things where one of those coaches or a youth leader, someone could buy a case of these books, hand it out, and use it as a way to connect with the students and provide some mentorship, at least a framework.
And for that very reason, I mean, we started a buy one, donate one program.
Okay.
And so right now we have on Amazon, is that, the half off, right? And that's so that you can buy one and donate one. And we've had a lot of people taking advantage of that. And I've had individuals and others that are saying they're going to mentor. And they bought 10
Yeah.
books at a time, and they're sending them out to individuals for Christmas, but they're also collecting. And when they go and have other discussions with people, they're handing them out, which I think is great. So the paper book is, at a discount right now,
Hmm.
and the hard copy just came out. Uh, But
Well, so I encourage people, go ahead and click on the book right in the carousels right below us here. It opens in a new tab. Add to cart and hit multiples on those. Send it off to folks. Buy one, give one. I think this is Ron. This is a great concept because we need to share this type of information. We need to make it available so that we can, those of us that want to work with students, have some tools and framework. And for those students that are out there and listening, or people that are older, you're adults, you're partway through your career, and you think, you know what, I need this. I tell you what, buy this book and find a mentor and go through it with them. We need this kind of thing. You can't, as we talked about this, you can't do this by yourself.
yes, and we can also go to our website, which is codingdownfirst.com, and we've got the link for joining the Diamond team. So that's a mentor program that we're starting, Diamonds in the Rough. And with that, we're going to be looking for a way to push out the information to people that want to mentor, that want to reach out and help others. And we're also going to be looking at donations for books to give away to some of the schools. And I've already got a few schools that are in. I've got a pastor that reached out to me before the book was even published and said that he mentors a lot of youth at his church, and he would love to be able to hand out those books. So I'd love to be able to purchase.
So in the book,
and hand those to him, right?
In the book, there's the link where people can join up as well, I would think.
Yes. It's at the back of the book.
Yeah, so people can get the book and they can join up with the community. I encourage folks, get the book. And baseball is just it's a fun sport, right? Baseball is a fun sport. It is America's pastime. It's something that many of us can relate to. And I love this analogy that you use of baseball. And I know that right in the beginning, you talk about some of the different ways to get on base, because that's the goal, right? Is you want to get on base, you want to score. And we want to do that in life too. We want to be able to advance our careers, to advance our personal lives. And but we often don't have a framework or something to measure, am I getting better?
Right. Or to understand the game or be able to navigate the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk about getting just on the first base in baseball. I mean, there's 9-10 different ways besides getting a hit to get on base.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't know the rules and you don't understand that, you don't know.
Right.
And so if you've got somebody that can help you navigate the field of play, it's very valuable across the board. And multiple mentors, will help you do that. So, I'm not saying that you've got to have a dozen different people mentoring you, but what you're looking for, whether it's formal or not, is somebody that you can learn from, somebody you can, and you don't want to mimic, because the one thing I say is, don't be a second rate, of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Be your own version. Don't be a second rate version of somebody.
Sure.
Be your own version. So, I collect information from everybody in books and everything else, and I may take a piece from everything. I mean, can't admit I'm not the most original, but there's hardly any original thinkers left, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's grabbed something from somebody, movie that they've been excited about, a book, a person, an individual. So it's really hard to say what is original and not anymore.
I was
that we see today, right? We've seen them over and over in different versions.
Sure.
The last, I haven't been here 100 years, but over the last 100 years, and some of them, I'm like, the first time I've noticed that or known that, hey, this was actually said back in 1930.
As I say, we don't know what we don't know. And as you talked about, there's a lot of different ways to get on base. Obviously, we think, you hit the ball and they don't stop it, and you get on base, and maybe you can advance and get a double, triple, or even a home run. If they throw a bunch of bad pitches, you get a walk and you get on base, but you don't get any further than that. The one that I didn't like, by the way, getting hit by the ball.
Getting hit by a pitch, yeah.
You get hit by a pitch. I mean, maybe it's good for the team.
that if you lean into it, right? So there's kids that lean into it and adults that lean
I,
into it to get hit. It's like, okay,
but these are different things. You know, I was thinking. I remember I was working for Hewlett Packard, and I was doing work down in San Diego at the plant down there, and it's a big facility, and uh, I didn't have someone to guide me on certain things that were very important. And so I literally was walking past three restrooms to get to the one that I knew, right? I knew where it was, but they're like, "Why are you going to that restroom? There's one right here." And I was like, "Because I didn't know."
you didn't
And so
know.
I made life harder for myself.
That's funny, but there's a lot of times I've done that too. Like, why are you going that way? Well, it's the only way I know around there. Well, that's just right there, right?
If we get some a guide or a coach, a mentor, and so let's talk about who really should be buying this book and how you would actually use the principles in this book.
So again, anybody in business would be a great opportunity.
Hmm.
Uh, Wherever you're at in your career, there's always steps and things that you want to do. And some of it could be for personal as well, setting goals and setting, expectations,
Hmm.
whether that's in your personal life or not. But I mean, primarily, we're focusing on younger adults, younger individuals that are looking to go to the next level. But one of the things that I always say is you never stop learning, and you always keep moving forward. I've got, maybe I'm dating how old I am, but I have my oldest child is, in their late 30s, and my youngest is 16. So I kind of run the gamut as far as
That's the
that, and
span.
where everything fits. But it fits for that age group, especially, from 16 to 36.
Hmm.
It's a great fit because everybody's at a different part in phase in their life, right? But I think one of the biggest parts is that when you look at where you are today and where you want to go, there may be 50% of what's in this book. You may say, well, you know what? I've seen that. I've heard that before.
Hmm.
Great. But are you actually following any of it? Are you actually
Right.
doing any of it? Right.
Hmm.
My oldest daughter, she's been quite successful running her own floral company and design company. And all of my kids seem to be doing well. But when I told her about about the book, I said, you probably will recognize at least 10 lessons in here that you already have seen or talked to me about already, that we've discussed, right? Uh, and it's not something that I've just kind of gone and thrown out there. This is something that I've encouraged my own children to do, right? So from that age game of 16 to 36, they've lived this. They've lived these lessons. They've heard these stories.
Hmm.
They've discussed as far as how to set goals and what you need to do, and getting back on track, because a lot of times we set goals and then we kind of fade away from them, and then we say, okay, I'm not where I want to be. But instead of complaining about it, you just need to get back on and kind of start setting that. And it's never too late. I mean, talk about when individuals are in their 50s and 60s and they're just now starting, running their own business, especially, right? So if
Hmm.
you've been in business, been working for a company, for example, for 30 years, like I did, and now you want to go start your own company, I mean, you may be in your 50s or 60s. This is still a great opportunity. It's still a great, you know, outline for you to get started and get to the next level. So
Right.
this is a lot about the listening and learning, and then becoming a leader. Uh, Again, this is part of a three-part series, three-part book, as far as Diamonds in the Rough series. And the next is kind of getting to the next level. So it'll be rounding second, getting to the next level, and that's basically gets in really deep in some more detail, and that's
Hmm.
really for someone who's a little bit more experienced, has a little bit, or at least has read this book, right? And if they haven't, they're a little bit more advanced in their career. Uh,
Hmm.
and then the third book will be the final stage of that, right? And that'll be a discussion with a lot of CEOs and other executives that I've been fortunate enough to have in my life throughout, my careers. I've been very fortunate to, especially from where I came from to where I'm at today. I'm on the advisory board for Southern Methodist University in Dallas for uh, workforce tomorrow, and also
Hmm.
for business and technology. And I've met a lot of great people on this board. How did I get there from where I started? It's just incremental steps and, along the way, and opportunities that develops, that I was able to take advantage of. Same thing as far as business in the industry. I've been recognized in the industry, uh, as, top 20 global service leaders to know. And that didn't happen overnight. And I've been in business, retired again from AT&T, and had a career, before I started doing entrepreneurial and being in this business at the smaller level.
Hmm.
And it's getting to know people, having the right discussions, being able to discuss, and set expectations. When you set those proper expectations with yourself and those around you, and everybody's aligned, I mean, the sky's the limit as far as your success. There's no doubt that I have. I mean, I can remember being in advertising because it was running the weekly papers. Talked about that when I first got out of school,
Hmm.
uh, and going and having to get advertising dollars to help keep the business going, right? And part of that is budgeting with small businesses. And I remember one, woman who was in accounting her whole life. She wanted to start this little putt putt business, and but she wanted to run this one big page ad, right? Wanted to throw all her budget, all her money on that one ad. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't think that's good. I mean, I can take your money, but how about we take that money and we split it up over the
Hmm.
next 8 weeks, and we do a big ad, then we do a small ad, then we do a medium ad, and kind of for the same money, we did that
Hmm.
over 8 weeks. I went in to visit her on the third or fourth week that she was going, and she was like, "This is really great." She goes, "The first week was, kind of iffy." She goes,
Hmm.
"But it's been building and building and building." It's that repetition, right? That
Hmm.
branding, that awareness that you get, and you're in front of people all the time. And I talk about that as well as far as branding and awareness. And you have your own brand, right? Whether you like it or not, we all have our own brand. But
Indeed.
that's a big piece of it. It's recognition and awareness, and people getting to know you. People don't buy from most people on the first pass that they look at you or hear from you. They
Hmm.
probably don't even do that the second. But the third time, when you start showing consistency and you start, doing the same things over and over, and your message doesn't, move or change, people start to trust you a little bit more. And they might want to start doing business with you. So consistency is huge as far as business, and being able to be consistent in business is very tough these days because everybody wants to move so fast. Everybody wants to make a change, and they want to look at the market. And you've got all these SEO, guys, they're saying, "Oh, your digital marketing needs this. You need to do this. You need to do this," and they're wanting you to change it every day and change it.
Hmm.
You've got to get it in a rhythm. You got to get a process. You just have to be consistent and patience, because that's one thing I had to learn over my lifetime. I was never very patient growing up. I'll admit that. I was the youngest of five children, so I guess I didn't get enough attention because I was always looking for more attention, and I wanted it now because I was the youngest. I was always having to run to keep up with everybody, right? So that's one of those things that you have to learn.
Patience. I
Yeah.
remember driving back from a business meeting with my partner, and we're in the car, and all of a sudden I just prayed out and I said, God, teach me how to deal with instant gratification. I think I got this patience thing whipped. Apparently that wasn't the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Be careful what you pray for, right?
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the training and so forth that you do or can do for folks based on the principles here in holding down first.
Yes. So one of the parts is, as far as training, the first thing we always want to do is observe and understand, get a good understanding of your business,
Hmm.
what you're doing, how you're doing, and why. So, again, this goes back to my journalism days, and I've implemented this in business as well. Is everything is about telling a story, right? If I go to a customer or I go to another business, I want to understand that story. I want to understand what your story is.
Hmm.
Why are you doing what you're doing? How did you get into this? Where did you start? What is your goals? And once we start doing that, I understand where you are and what you're doing. I can better help you to the next level, and be able to get you to where you're at. Small businesses in particular, it's very, very difficult, to make a decision because there's so much that rides on it. If you make one change or one decision and it's not the right one, I mean, it could bankrupt you,
Right.
it could like
Hmm.
put you in a very, very bad situation. So what I've always done here at Triton when I've come on board is I do a lot of evaluation. I'm the CTO, the CMO, the COO, the CRO, for the sales, the revenue officer. So everything I do is I evaluate it, I look at it, I let my team look at it, I get my team's feedback on it, and we make a decision as a team. And
Mm.
if it's strategic, I'll tell them why I think it's strategic, because it could be that I'm bringing in a product or service that we've never done before, which I do all the time. It's a technology business, so we were always trying and
Sure.
looking at something different every day. And they're like, "Why are we doing this? We have never done this, before." And it's like, exactly. We're doing this because nobody else is doing it either. You know, Triton has won the last 2 out of the last 3 years the innovation award in our industry for digital transformation and innovation as it relates to furthering the industry. That's a lot of verbiage, but
Congratulations.
called the
That's great
Vanguard
stuff.
Award.
Yeah.
But we won it the last 2 out of 3 years. And it's because we're always moving forward in that direction. We started out
Mm.
with a platform about unified communications. We added in the network and security. Now we have a gateway. But every year we kind of keep advancing it. Internet of Things and mobility keep kind of coming in there. So we're never satisfied with what we're doing, not because you know we're looking for something in particular. We want to take care of our customers, so that's why we're doing
Hmm.
it. But I get the feedback from my team, and I get everybody's understanding as far as why I want to make this change or why I want to go in this direction. Because if you don't convey that and you say, "Well, I'm the boss, and this is what we're going to do," uh, you're not
Right.
getting a lot of followers,
Command
right?
and control
You can just
leadership.
go back
Hmm.
where now you're just pulling people with you, and most of the time you end up dragging people with you, and that doesn't work very well, right? I like to have my team and my people in front of me, and
Hmm.
I'm pushing them as we can to better, bigger and better things. But the innovation part of it is we continue to innovate, and uh, but the ones that know the business and know what it's going to take for us to get things changed are
Hmm.
the guys that do it every day.
Sure.
My procurement team, my service delivery team, my engineers. I rely on them for their feedback.
Hmm.
You know,
Trust is a big thing. It's
it
it's
is.
and uh, it's often really hard. And just as you said, as a small business, you don't have those big cash reserves to weather a mistake. And so I've seen a lot of businesses, a lot of small businesses especially, be indecisive and
Right.
not take action when they should because they're afraid that what if they do it wrong?
And that's a big thing too, right? And now paralysis by analysis, right?
Mm, yeah.
Heard that before, right? Because you can just think about it too much. But what I try to do is show both sides of it
Hmm.
and show the trends. I was fortunate again to be in a position at AT&T and Southwestern Bell to be part of the staff that I provided a lot of forecasting for the business. And
Hmm.
there was even a report that they used with you know, Wall Street at one point that was called the Ron Lovern report. And the CEO, always had to go in with, that report or else he wouldn't go into meetings. And it was about the forecasting on our trends. And I always tell people, you give me 6 months of information and I can forecast your next 2 years.
Hmm.
And in business, you can do the same, even on a small business. And it's not so much that I'm looking at what you've done in revenue, what you've done here. I'm looking at your processes. I'm looking at,
Hmm.
where your customers are coming from and, what you're doing different or new. And the last 6 months tells a lot because you usually don't change from 6 months to 18 months, right? And if your team is behind or they're having issues keeping up with the work over the last month or two, that's one thing. But if they've been doing it continuing for the last 6 months, they've probably been doing it longer than that. And the development part about this is that now we have a trajectory of where we're going, and now we have a little you know forecast, right? A little hidden view into the future as far as what you really need to do. And again, not everybody's going to jump into it and do it 100%, but if you do 5%, 10%, 15%, you start adding into moving in this direction and this change, then eventually you'll be where you want to be, whether it's in a year or 2 years. could be 3 years. But those, again, you're setting goals, right? I've got a
Mm-hmm.
5-year goal where I want this business to be. I'm not going to do everything at one time, but over the next year, these are the things I can do that are going to help me accomplish that goal. And then the next year, you reevaluate it. You look at it again and say, okay, we're going to make a little bit of change. The market's changing, so we're going to change a little bit this way, in this direction, right? A little pivot. And when you do that, you don't have to make a 180-degree pivot. It's just a few degrees at a time. And eventually, you end up going from a journalism major to being a technical advisor and a global service leader.
Right.
After 20, 30 years. So,
well, as we're going to wind down here, and I'm going to remind people how to buy the book, which is click the link right below us. It's in the carousel. Click Holding Down First, Following Your Own Path to Success. And I like that. Everyone's path is different, and there are a lot of different ways to get there, and we get to define what that success is. Don't let someone else decide for you. Buy this book, buy a couple of them. We've got this opportunity to buy one and give one. So buy one for yourself, buy one for someone that you want to mentor or that you want to mentor you. And it's the perfect holiday gift. Give something that's going to be beneficial this year. Ugly sweaters are fun, but books are better. And Ron, as we wind down, tell people how they can get a hold of you. And I know the contact information is in the book, so definitely buy the book. But how do people get a hold of you?
So you can reach out, again, www.holdingdownfirst.com. And we are creating an admin page. We're creating the Diamonds in the Rough series, reaching back out into the community. You can also reach me directly at RK Lovern at holdingdownfirst.com. Or you can just reach out to me at Ron_Lovern at yahoo.com. And that's my direct email.
Well, there you go. And when's the next in the series plan to come out? What are people anticipating?
Probably end of June, July time frame.
Well, perfect. We want people to click on your book, add to cart, click on your name, and follow you as an author, so that when these follow-ups come, they'll get notified, because that's a great thing. As we wind down, what's the one thing from the book that really stands out, and when people put this down and a year later they think about your book, what do you want people to recall from Holding Down First, Following Your Own Path to Success?
So one of the big parts that kind of pushes through everything is, from The Art of War, that, in there it states that water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows, right? And then further that, a lot of times that doesn't mean it's a straight path, and it's not going to be a straight path. Look at any body of water flowing downhill. It's not a straight path. There's and curves and horseshoes and everything. And sometimes there's rocks and boulders in the way. But, in the midst of all that and the chaos, there's always opportunity. So even though our paths, are going to vary and flow from ebb and flow and move from direction to direction, there's always opportunity in everything that we do, in every direction that we face. And we have to look for those opportunities. We can't let a roadblock impede us or stop us, which is what, honestly, I did to myself for several years, back and forth, until I realized, what, I'm following my own path, and I'm moving forward. So always keep moving forward, keep that direction, and challenge yourself every day.
Well, Ron, thanks for joining us here on Amazon Live. It's been great getting to know you, more about you and your background. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for succumbing to all those whippings from Liz Lawless to write this book.
To get this done. Yeah.
All right.
Thank her or cursor. It's all on her.
All right. Well, stand by. We'll wind this down, but hang on a moment here.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So we've been talking with the author of Holding Down First, Following Your Own Path to Success. This is Ronald K. Lovern. The book uses baseball as an analogy, but it is suitable for everyone, and it is a great gift. Give it to yourself, give it to a friend. Go ahead and click in the cart down there in the carousel, add to cart, and give it as a gift and be the hero this year. And with that, we're going to wind up this Amazon Live. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you for those who are commenting. And we wish you all the best of the season and a wonderful 2024. Cheers.
Cheers.